City of Adelaide Council meeting on Tuesday, 22nd April 2025. The Lord Mayor is in the chair. This council meeting will be streamed live and recorded for publishing to the internet. Please note that an audio and visual recording is being taken of this meeting. This means that your presence at and any contribution you make to the meeting may be collected, used, disclosed or published publicly by the Council, including transferring outside Australia.
Good evening. Council acknowledges that we're meeting on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains and pays respects to elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with the land. We acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today. And we also extend that respect to the other Aboriginal language groups and other First Nations people who may be with us this evening. The Council acknowledges the vision of Colonel William Light in determining the site for Adelaide and the design of the city with its 6 squares and surrounding belt of continuous parklands, which is recognised on the National Heritage List as one of the greatest examples of Australia's planning heritage. We pray for wisdom, courage, empathy and understanding and guidance in the decisions that we make while seeking and respecting the opinions of others. May we in this meeting speak honestly, listen attentively, think clearly and decide wisely for the good governance of the City of Adelaide and the well-being of those we serve. I now ask all present to stand in silence in memory of those who gave their lives in defence of their country, at sea, on land and in the air. So we have 2 apologies this evening, one from Councillor Kouros and one from Councillor Abrahimzadeh. In terms of the confirmation of minutes, because there were several meetings conducted on the 8th of the 4th, the 14th of the 4th and the 15th of the 4th, there are actually, I think, 5 minutes. Councillor.
I was just wondering if we could send the security guard home, given we probably don't need the security support. I saw them waiting in the centre unless there's a...
I'm not in charge of it.
I just don't think we need to spend the ratepayers' money for a mob that's not going to turn up.
Could I ask if someone would be good enough to move all the minutes moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Snape. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, members. Presumably the security will be handled in a way. Yes. Yep. Does anyone have a declaration of conflict of interest? No? I'll move on. We have no deputations. We have no petitions. Then we'll move to item 11, which is the audit and risk, moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Snape. Is there any debate on...
I did just have a question in relation to this, Lord Mayor. And having a look at the strategic risk register that we're presented with, I noted that there's no indication as to what the residual risk is after treatment, so I may have read that incorrectly, but I was just wondering whether that's intentionally blank or whether that's a piece of work that's about to be done.
My understanding was this was a draft format because the Audit and Risk Committee had complained about the way we presented the risk, and they complained and suggested an amendment to the format and the way it was laid out. So this meeting was just looking at the new format without all the data populating the area. Is that correct interpretation?
That's correct, Lord Mayor.
And so, Lord Mayor, through you, when will the fully completed strategic risk register be available for members?
I'll have to pass on that request.
Mr Spartelis, in terms of timing?
Through the presiding member, the intent is to take that new format, engage with each of the risk owners, and to, I guess, assess the effectiveness of those controls to look at that residual risk with a view to presenting that to Sharia. I can commit to do that probably in the next 2 Sharia meetings, I believe, which is probably a June Sharia meeting, and then we'll bring to Audit and Risk Committee and then Council after that.
My understanding was that the ARC said they liked the presentation and requested the administration to populate it in the months ahead. So, Councillor Davis, did I see your hand rise?
Yes. This SCOSA report has actually been tabled and adopted by Council, because I don't recall it coming to this chamber.
I'm sorry, I just didn't quite hear the question.
With the SCOSA report, we saw a cut-down, slided-up version, but has the full report of the SCOSA been presented to Council and adopted with its recommendations adopted in full, or not?
Through the presiding member, my understanding is the draft of the business plan and budget presented for consultation at committee this evening met the requirements of the SCOSA review. Yeah,
so it's quite frustrating, CEO, when I ask a question, I'm really asking for the answer to that question. I'm asking, has the SCOSA report in full been presented to this council? Have we acknowledged that report and accepted its recommendations?
That'll happen at the special council meeting on the 29th of April, Councillor.
Okay, so that's when we'll be accepting the SCOSA report.
Is there any other questions or points to be made? Can I put that to the vote? Do you want to sum up, Councillor? All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. We will now move on to item 12. And Councillor Martin, I think you chaired this meeting. Are you happy to take this on block, or do you wish to?
Well, I'm happy to take it on block, Lord Mayor.
And do I have a seconder? Councillor Giles, do you wish to comment on this? If not, or do you wish to sum up?
Sum up, Lord Mayor.
All those. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Lord Mayor. Just I didn't realise we were moving through it so rapidly. Just did want to speak in relation to public.
I was a bit naughty. I did. We've closed the debate. I'm sorry.
I just want to ask a question in relation to the integrated transport strategy. So I know that there were comments made at the committee meeting last week. There was an undertaking on making some amendments to the integrated transport strategy. I can see that there haven't been.
Can we just? Yes or no?
We've given undertakings to make some amendments prior to moving out to consultation.
Okay, so that's why they're not in there yet. They will be there before they go out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All those, Councillor Davis.
I'd like to speak to it.
Well, we have closed the debate. If you have one quick question, we will take it. But
No, I'd like to speak to the motion.
I'm sorry, we've closed the debate. All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. I'm sorry, I was going rather fast. 13, item 13, that's Councillor Siebentrit, City Finance and Governance Committee. Do you wish to move it on block?
I'm happy to move it on block. I'm expecting there may be a
Councillor
desire
Martin,
to take some
do you wish to
parts.
second it on block, or do you wish to debate?
Look, I have an amendment to 7.5, Lord Mayor, and I wonder if we might treat all of the item as 2 items, that is all but 7.5 and 7.5 separately.
Okay, so Councillor Siebentrit moving 2, 3 and 4. That's, sorry, recommendation 1, 2 and 3. Could that be seconded by Councillor Snape? Any debate on those 3? All those in favour?
I just did want to speak to it briefly, Lord Mayor,
Okay.
around
I didn't
the
let
budget.
you sum up.
Just around the budget process. So I think it's worth noting that in a week's time, we have the budget that will be presented before us. And really recapping that we've been through quite an extensive process now. We started in December last year, and by my tally, we've had at least 10 meetings, including a number of special meetings. Across the course there, we've looked at capital and strategic projects, operating costs. We've seen the draft budgets for ADA, ACMA, Catatilla. We've had a rate review tonight. We've looked at the SCOSA findings. So this has been through nearly, what are we looking now, nearly 5 months worth of effort.
I just have a point of order, Lord Mayor.
What is your point of order?
The point of order is going through the history of it doesn't relate to the fees and charges, which is the motion for the council. If I was trying to go on something like this, I'd be shut down and kicked out.
I think
So I'd ask the same rule be applied to Councillor Siebentry.
Councillor Davis, you'll find that we're taking... Thank you for the advice,
I rule
Councillor.
against you, Councillor Davis, because this is a motion about the business plan and budget, which is the whole thing. So I think Councillor Siebentry, who's the chair of the committee, is actually on track.
I'm speaking specifically, Lord Mayor, just to clarify for everyone's benefit, I'm speaking particularly in relation to recommendation number 2, which I believe does relate to endorses the final list of strategic projects, capital projects, etc. So I'm just talking to the process that we've been through, noting that it's been very thorough and rigorous, and we're looking forward to receiving the budget before us in a week's time. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
So we'll take that as summing up, and unless there's any dissident view, we'll put all those in favour. All those against? That's carried. So we'll now go to 7.5, and...
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor, and I do
have it already.
Yes, I have an amendment to 7.5, and I wish to replace 2, and I will read it slowly, and I do apologise for not circulating it to the administration. Oh, you've got it.
I think we have it here. This must have... Councillor, I think it must have somehow miraculously gone onto the screen without you knowing about it.
Well, no, I was going to table it previously, so that's probably why. So there's a new 2, and it requests administration arrange social media training for council members with Wallman's lawyers prior to June 30th, 2025, to be funded from the remaining 24-25 council member training development budget. And I would like a seconder.
Councillor Snape.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, I have amended this. It is an important subject, and I want to be the first to acknowledge that social media is an invaluable tool for elected members in order to convey the decisions of council and to participate in community discussions generally. But Lord Mayor, and I'm speaking generally about local government in South Australia in my comments here, but Lord Mayor, some terrible misinformation appears in social media from time to time. Some of it is, well, it's misinformation, and it has the potential to destroy confidence in public institutions like local government.
Just a moment, Councillor. I think we have a point of order.
How is waxing lyrical about misinformation appearing on social media going to help with a council elected member scheduling to receive training in 30 June? It's either we get the training or we don't.
My interpretation is it's to give us parameters and fit it in with the behavioural standards course.
Yeah, so that's what it is. So why don't we just move the motion and move on? Whereas councillor's going to wax lyrical about misinformation running around on your Instagram profile.
If the councillor wishes to speak on his motion, I think it's fair he does so.
Well, I just think it's disrespectful to the
Thank you.
chair.
Please don't argue.
He's criticising your Instagram
Please
account.
don't argue, councillor. I have actually asked you to accept that I have not accepted your point of order. I go back to Councillor Martin, who has the call, has the floor, and is speaking to his motion.
Lord Mayor, let me make clear, I'm not criticising your Instagram account or any of your posts. I thoroughly enjoyed them. Some of them more than others, Lord Mayor, some of them more than others. However, misinformation on social media is a glaring problem. And I think it's important for the elected members of this council, for all of us, to understand what are our obligations and our responsibilities to the community and to the council. And the best way to do that is to invite Wallman lawyers to conduct a session that will point out to us the pitfalls and ways in which we can make social media a positive tool for the City of Adelaide and for local government in South Australia. It's just a training session. I don't expect it to solve problems of world peace, Lord Mayor, but I do think it will go some way to helping all of us better engage with social media.
So could I just ask one question about Warmer's lawyers? Do we normally identify the provider? I'm not quite sure how we came upon Warman's.
We have identified Warman's based on a specific offering they're providing through the local government association for this particular modular training.
So just to recoup that, this was a recommendation in the previous advice to council.
Correct.
A couple of months ago. Thank you. Sorry.
I'm going to move against the entirety of the motion, largely because of the schedule aligns with 4 of our councillors not being a member of the council. So doesn't it make a lot more sense to wait until our new comrades join us rather than embarking on a training exercise without them? My suggestion would be that we amend this schedule until after they are elected and appointed as elected members.
So could I just from the chair ask the CEO if the decision about this is because there's remaining funding in the budget?
That is the case, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
I have a
on this
question.
motion?
Lord Mayor,
Just
I have a question.
look,
Just a moment. Can
Oh,
I
I'm
just...
sorry.
Councillor Davis, you want another question?
Why can't we just roll the budget, like roll any remaining training budget, which is unspent in this year, to the next year? How many people would die as a result of waiting until our councillors come back so that they can participate in this training? And secondly, what is the mad rush to have strategic, sustainable debt understanding? It's a question. As a question, why do we have a mad rush? Why don't we wait until the new elected members join us?
I think that's a statement.
No, it's not. It's a question.
Councillor Martin, would you like to...
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. And look, there's
I'm sorry, there's a point of order.
A valuable
I
point.
have a point of order. I have 2 questions. One,
Well, hang on, Lord Mayor. A point of order requires the person.
Sorry, you have a point of order about my point of order,
to
or are you
nominate
running the
that
points
part
of
of the
order?
Local Government Act,
Does Councillor Martin run the
which
chair
is
now?
being
Does Councillor
breached.
Martin run the chair, or the chair runs the chair? My point of order is that I had 2 questions and they weren't answered. The first question was, why can't we roll over the budget to the next year? And secondly, why can't we delay this training to a more suitable time?
I understood that the question was, is anyone going to die? And I thought that was facetious. But if anyone can answer his question, please help me.
In terms of the question regarding the rollover of the training budget from the current financial year to the following, we have a general financial principle supported by the council that we don't carry forward operational funds.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. And look, the answer is it is imperative we have this training before someone dies of laughter or alternatively anxiety because of the social media posts that we all desperately need to understand how to actually make and present in local government in South Australia. This is a small step. The City of Adelaide, I hope, is one of the first councils to undertake this sort of media training, and I do believe that all of us would be grateful to the administration for arranging it as quickly as possible.
Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you.
Division, please.
The division.
Thank you.
The division has been called.
Members, a division has been called in relation to the motion before you. Please stand in favour of the motion until your name has been called. Councillor Martin, Councillor Snape, Councillor Giles and Councillor Siebentrop. Thank you.
Move to 14.1, which is the appointment of a councillor to the position of the Deputy Lord Mayor for the period 23 April until the first meeting attended by the newly sworn-in Central Ward councillors. Do I have any nominations? Councillor Snape.
I nominate Councillor Martin.
Councillor Martin, are you prepared to accept it? Yes, I am. Thank you very much. Any other nominations?
I'd like to declare a general conflict of interest, and I'll leave the chamber while the
as a
chamber
matter of
votes on it.
clarification, could you actually tell me what is the type of this conflict?
Given the public nature, I don't believe that a reasonable person would consider that I would operate as a fair-minded individual in relation to voting for this item, so I'll vacate the chamber. Thank you.
He doesn't have to leave.
But if you go, we'll lose the quorum, so I believe you don't have to leave. And you haven't identified the cause of your conflict. It's important that a member recognises the rules require the member's interest in the matter, whether or not the member proposes to stay when we know he doesn't, and what the details were. We haven't been given that information, so I'm not sure if that counts as a behavioural standard. So now I think we'll move on to the next item.
Item has to be adjourned.
Yep.
Can we let Councillor Davis know we're moving to the next item?
I think we're unable to take a vote on that. I think we have a nomination, but we can't vote because the Councillor Martin will have to leave the room, and then we will be in quorate.
The quorum has been collapsed.
So I'm going to have to adjourn the meeting because the quorum collapses.
Do you adjourn the item and we wait for Councillor Davis to come back?
I'm sorry?
Adjourn the item and then...
So we're going to seek an adjournment of that item, and you could vote for an adjournment, I suppose, but all those in favour of adjournment? I'm sorry? 5 minutes, yes, we could wait for 5 minutes, but I don't... Can I just take advice? I don't believe he's going to come back. I'm sorry for the gallery, we're just trying to work out the location of our council. So 14.2, this was dependent, I think, on the Deputy Lord Mayor's position. Oh, sorry, this is a proxy, I apologise. So is anyone prepared to be the proxy council member for the audit and risk? It has no remuneration. Councillor Giles?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Martin.
Councillor Martin, are you prepared to take on that nomination?
Well, provided no one declares a general conflict, yes.
Yes, thank you. So we will insert Councillor Martin's name. A proxy member without remuneration. So could we take that to the vote? Or moved? Can I just have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Giles, seconded by Councillor Snape. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. 14.3. I'm seeking advice as to which councillor would be prepared to join the Reconciliation Committee. Councillor Giles, are you nominating someone?
I'll nominate Councillor Snape.
Councillor Snape, are you prepared to accept it? Thank you. Could we put, this is unremunerated again, so could I ask people to move this, someone to move this? All those in favour? All those against? Sorry. I think that Councillor Siebentritt seconded it. Councillor Giles moved, Councillor Siebentritt seconded. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Go on to the Lord Mayor's report. That's number 15. Thank you. Many of you will have enjoyed the gather round in the last week. It was stellar to have so many happy visitors from interstate enjoying the locations, not just at the Oval, but also Elder Park and Rundle Moor, as well as eating and drinking across the city. They were a cheerful and joyful group of people. The festival was a great boon to the city in terms of economic benefit. And interestingly, many of the people at the football also enjoyed the Shahuli experience. I have to remind you that the outdoor exhibition closes on Tuesday, April the 29th, and you still have a chance to visit either during the day or in the evening. I was really delighted to go to the 2 openings of new businesses in the city, and if you haven't attended these premises, please go to Reno's on Piri Street, which has a stellar menu and a great kitchen. It's very close to the town hall and is one of our locals. I also went to the opening of Emma Sadie Thompson's plant and landscaping store in Gillies Street, and you can buy everything from wicking beds to foods for plants. I recommend it. I should mention that Reno's is a great addition to the Reelside property, revamped 45 Perry Street. It's one of our reuse projects in the city with reuse and upgrading the building. It saved more than 50,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide emissions, which is equivalent to taking 85,000 return flights from Sydney to Adelaide. I also attended the Local Government Association's Metropolitan Mayors Forum, which brought together mayors from across the metro area. Could I ask someone to move my report be received? Councillor Giles moved, Councillor Snape seconded. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you, members. I now move on to the council members' reports. There is a recommendation, but would anyone like to comment on their activities? No? Could someone move the recommendation then? Moved by Councillor Snape, seconded by Councillor Siebentrit. Any comments? If not, all those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. So we have 17.1, Councillor Martin, your motion. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Siebentrit.
Yes, certainly. Just waiting for any declarations, but okay, that's good. Lord Mayor, COP31 is coming, and I think regardless of who wins the next federal election, it'll be difficult for any political party or government to not support COP31 down under. Now, admin notes in its commentary that a decision will come after the federal election when the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change Committee meets, I think, in South America to decide who will host the event. Australia and Turkey are said to be the main competitors. It will be a decision to decide between either Australia or Turkey. And I would suspect that given that the Prime Minister has already endorsed the possibility of hosting it, but particularly the event in Adelaide assists the country enormously in this contest. And it's not entirely unexpected. The state government, Lord Mayor, has already commissioned an economic impact study, which is not widely available, but I understand that from the state government's perspective, it's likely that there will be 50,000 delegates coming to Adelaide. That would make it the biggest conference or convention in Australia ever. It's huge. And in terms of economic impact, it's expected that it will generate something like $500 million for the local economy during the days of COP31. It is so big, in fact, that it will have to be held at multiple venues, and I understand that there's already discussion about harnessing Adelaide Oval, Adelaide Convention Centre, and perhaps venues smaller, such as the Town Hall, in order to get all of the delegates into all of the sessions. But of course the city will have to be ready, and that means a role for the City of Adelaide in making sure that arrangements like access and even just services such that we provide currently are going to be able to cope with such a large number of delegates. We need to make sure also that our streets look spick and span and look the part for the job. So, Lord Mayor, it's been suggested to me that we probably need to start turning our minds to this already. It's said that contemplating how we're going to handle this at the end of the year or early next year will probably be too late. And so I've asked the administration if, pending the nomination of Australia as the host, some information could be prepared for us to be ready for the event.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just like to speak briefly in support of this, and thank you to Councillor Martin for bringing this forward. I think for those tuning in and listening to this might be thinking, what on earth is a COP? It's a bit like the Olympic Games for everything that relates to climate change. And if climate change still remains one of the world's biggest priorities, from everything from global economic impacts through to conservation, this really is a significant and a serious event. So not only does it present an opportunity for many people visiting the city, but we will have global leaders from around the world coming together coming into Adelaide to be part of this process. And it won't just be in the immediate time around the event, it'll be in the year leading up, and at about you would expect at least the 6 months afterwards. So this really is a significant opportunity, and also it's a wonderful opportunity for the City of Adelaide to be here supporting the hosting of this, to be able to showcase a lot of the fantastic work we've been doing. So wholeheartedly support this. This is incredibly exciting. I know there's already been a lot of hard work that's gone into this, and that will continue through to hopefully what will be an extraordinary event here in Adelaide.
Snape and then Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I wholeheartedly support this motion as well as Adelaide itself, South Australia hosting COP31 along with our island nation neighbours. However, Adelaide is a unique place. It is a city ringed by parklands, and a suitable venue with our beautiful vistas would make a fantastic location. However, we must also walk the walk as well as talk the talk, and I'd be remiss if I did not express my concerns about the ongoing attacks on our parklands by the current state government and their close ties to fossil fuel sponsors, including Saudi Arabia's oil-funded Live Golf and of course Santos is tore down under. So I would use this position and this pulpit to urge the state government to walk the walk and not just talk the talk, and don't let it be a cop-out.
Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Councillor Snape. The government needs to show leadership in this regard. And I noticed that the COP, I think it was this year in 30, they destroyed a huge amount of protected Brazilian rainforest in order to get all their delegates there. So kind of defeats the purpose in many ways. So I hope that Adelaide doesn't face the same thing, and we pave one of our parklands in order to accommodate the 50,000 delegates that will swamp to our city. It would be very good, I think, if the administration can look at ways that we can reduce our emissions. Otherwise, these things turn into massive carbon, fossil fuel emissions centres, and a reason to go against everything this is meant to stand for, like they're doing in Brazil at the moment. So if the administration could assist with those types of measures so we don't embarrass ourselves like Brazil had, I think that would be a good point of call.
Thank you, Councillor. Unless there are any other comments, would you like to sum up?
Lord Mayor, I thank the councillor for his comments about carbon emissions. They are a dangerous thing, and we seem to have plenty of them around here. Look, I would urge members to support this. This is a step in a very important process for the City of Adelaide, and I think to indicate our preparedness that we are thinking of COP31 is, I think, the right signal for us to be sending.
Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. So now we've got Councillor Davis's motion without notice.
Yeah, I have a motion without notice, thank you.
It's quite a complicated motion, so I thought what we might do is suspend meeting procedures.
Sure.
So that we can actually go through it and ask the administration just to inform us as to what they're doing.
Because I think there are some changes as well. I saw late this afternoon that, for example, 4 of the nets would be removed from Lee Street.
Can we just, can we suspend meeting procedures for a moment?
I just want to say I'm happy to workshop it with the administration.
Yes. Can I ask leave of the meeting to suspend meeting procedures for probably about 10 minutes? All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. I think that as it's quite complicated and the administration have been beavering away at this project for several weeks, I might ask Ms Podolyak to give us a briefing on what we've done to date so that we're not confused.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. Certainly a very complex issue in dealing with wildlife in a city environment, and the teams collectively across the organisation have been working particularly with Green Adelaide as a leader in being able to provide us advice. We met as a group of government representatives last week, and we have our first official working group meeting with broader stakeholders tomorrow, which includes our effectively important volunteer groups, including the South Australian Native Fauna Rescue, who have been effectively manning Brundle Mall nightly to be able to support birds who are doing bird strike. We're also, as Councillor Davis mentioned, we've received advice from Professor Chris Daniels, who said we should look at removing the netting in Lee Street for 4 trees, and we will start that piece of work tomorrow morning through Mr Hajiros's team. We've also had our place coordinators down in Lee Street today talking to the owners of the businesses to make sure that they're aware of our activities in that space. And we just looking at other opportunities in terms of adjusting lighting in and around the infrastructure in Rundle Mall, as well as supporting any of the retailers for any additional window treatments, which could include decaling in terms of that space. And we are meeting hopefully with an ornithologist tomorrow to help us in our immediate actions, as well as work together collectively on what our medium and long-term plans are before the next roosting season. But I'm happy to take further questions.
I mean, my view, and at the whim of the chamber, but my view is that we should move a motion, and I understand the administration are doing some of that work. So, for example, with the nets, for example, to remove, say, 4 of them Lee Street rather than all of them. My view is that we should go out to the community with a motion about what the council is doing, and that would give us a clear direction on what we're going to do forward. I think things like, for example, we can clarify a lot of these points to the effect that, say for the nets, for example, rather than a motion to remove all the nets, to remove the nets in line with the recommendation from Green Adelaide would be a suggestion that I would put in there, and anything else that would assist. But I think a lot of the motions in there, I think, are potentially thought about, or if not, on their way. But I think it would be good as a council for us to clearly set out what our action would be.
Through the presiding member, I'm hearing an appetite to workshop the matter so that we do end up with a conclusive resolution of the council. Would Councillor Davis be prepared to work with the administration between now and the close of noms for the motions for the next meeting about a report that might provide an update and suggest a pathway moving forward?
Look, I think that the issue is that the footage is extremely distressing on Rundle Mall, which is why I think this is an urgent matter. And there's a lot of questions in the community about what we're doing about it. I think so far as not egregious with what the planned approach is, if we could move these motions as a council, I think it would show leadership and show that the council is aware of the issue. And so, for example, I'd recommend, like number 1, for example, that at the end of it to add in line with Green Adelaide's recommendation, for example, which we're aware of. So we could essentially make it a public motion. That would be my view, rather than waiting another 2 weeks for people to continually ask what's going on.
So could I just assist you perhaps, Councillor? Would it be better to say remove some of the bird netting in line with Green Adelaide's recommendations? Because that's exactly what's happening. Because there's actually been quite a lot of consultation over the last 2 weeks with Green Adelaide and the Department of the Environment and the property owners, and it's been a very collaborative series of communications and meetings. So that, I think, would tidy off on that one. The reason for some of the bird netting is the advice from Green Adelaide is that if you remove the netting, the birds won't go back because they're roosting somewhere else. And it's a period in the cycle of seasonal activity that they're locked into where they want to go at the moment. So that would actually tie in with their recommendations more clearly. Councillor Siebentreut, do you want some to ask questions?
Well, there's actually a suggestion, so I agree with Councillor Davis that we want to send a clear message back to the community that we recognise there's an issue here and we know what we're doing. But I wonder whether this is then aided by the first item is notes, and then it notes what council's currently doing, because we've said that we are taking a number of actions we're already committed to. it would be helpful, I think, I don't know whether it's possible to do this now, but have a list of those items that we wish to note and then separate out what we're already doing from any additional actions that we need to agree to. I recognise it's not ideal to do this during a meeting, but it's important we do send that clear message because, as you say, Lord Mayor, this matter has been worked on for a number of weeks already, and I think we need to clarify what's already done.
Can I just ask Councillor Davis if he would be happy to have note the removal of some of... Would you be happy with that? Thank you. Councillor Davis is happy with that. More questions? Councillor Martin.
Yes, Lord Mayor. Look, I think we're on the way. Why aren't we just noting the administration's actions, which include, and then list what's occurring, including the removal of the nets tomorrow, the assistance being rendered in terms of all of the other measures, and if anything remains unresolved, it's simply then adding and asks the administration to. And then it demonstrates to the community that our administration has been working on this for some time, that it's not just a motion that's come forward, this is a proactive council that's been dealing with this, and then we just add those points at the bottom that need attention.
So I think we might move to that, but let's get some questions. Are there any other questions about... Is everyone clear about what's happening? Councillor Seaman.
Perhaps a further question then to help build on what Councillor Martin said. Is there anything that's listed here, and again, thank you, Councillor Davis, for bringing this forward. Is there anything that's listed here that we're not currently doing?
I think that there's an interpretation of the temporary educational signage. As I understand it, there are signs that have been developed. I don't know if they're temporary. I don't know if... can I have advice on that? I thought there was some signage on some of the barriers and some stickers and things going up. Is that...
Through you, Lord Mayor, I think we effectively want to make sure that there's additional signage that also responds to the volunteers' needs and also the requests out of Green Adelaide. So what the team have suggested is some additional temporary signage that we can get up as of tomorrow, and that we are linked to a QR code which will also bump up an additional website for people to be able to find out more information and current information, and be able to link through to Green Adelaide's website that also has current information. So we're bumping up additional information in support of people's needs.
So my understanding is that moving on 3 and 4, we're in constant contact with the Apple and Optus shop, and they've been part of the meetings.
Yeah, through effectively Rundle Mall Management, and tomorrow they've received a formal invitation to join us. They'll be joining effectively from Teams because some of their team aren't based here. And the Optus store, we believe that we have solved most of that problems in terms of where the birds were getting in. So most of that stuff is, again, a watching brief daily based on bird behaviour and what's happening in the mall.
So I think also, having spoken to the volunteers and yourself last week, it's clear that we are working with the volunteer groups, subsidising their activities and getting parking for them. So that's, again, part of the stuff that's already... I spoke to the volunteers last week.
Yeah, and that's in train. We haven't formalised anything yet, but we have been working with them in terms of what's the best way for them to be able to receive the support that we have. So
I think that 8 is slightly different. You're not engaging tree marting experts, you're engaging an ornithologist. So it's a very specific bird expert. So it's not actually a tree martin expert, but they are bird experts. So...
Because my understanding is that someone in Queensland who has done her doctorate in tree martins, but I don't know her name, but that's the rumour that's running around.
I think that the plan was to have them there each day to supervise, so
yes.
It's a slightly different interpretation.
Yeah, so we're trying to, the advice is to make sure that we have an ornithologist there daily to be able to help monitor the bird numbers and bird behaviour. That will help us get through for any other remedial actions that we need to take in terms of this roosting season.
Can we seek leave of the meeting for another 5 minutes? 5? All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried.
And then that will help us actually in terms of a bird management strategy, which could be another sort of expert that might, as Councillor Davis says, might be correct out of Queensland because they deal with similar issues.
Yeah, so I think that's in train. So you've got a really good comprehensive list here, Councillor Davis. You have been part of the working meetings for the last several weeks, haven't they? Because you need to get approval from DEW because these are protected animals, and therefore you're not allowed to interfere with them unless you have legislative cover-off. Have I got that right?
Yes, correct.
And we have, I don't
Can
know
I-
that it's called a tree marting response working group, but
Your Worship, can I ask, is there anything in that motion which is egregiously different to what the administration is already doing? Because this doesn't limit them in any way.
no. I think the thing that I haven't discovered that they're doing is number 11. And I have a biodiversity survey from 203 because I'm a jackdaw and never throw anything away. And they do mention tree martins in that biodiversity survey. And as I understand it, at the time they were decreasing numbers in the parklands, but now they're coming in from suburbs where gorges and ravines are being built out, so that the numbers are increasing. So I think that checking our... Can I ask Mr Haridis, do we have an urban ecology strategy?
Thank you, and through the chair, the item 11, in line with Councillor Davis's question on what is currently not being progressed on that list, is the recent biodiversity survey that council may recall was focused, and you've touched on this point, Lord Mayor, on parklands related biodiversity and doesn't pick up the urban environment. The tree martins, as we're aware, don't roost or spend time in the parklands. And so certainly through this work and any reports, if there are amendments or inclusions we can make to existing strategies, that's something we can take as a future action.
So I think we need... Councillor Davis has done a good job in covering off on lots of things here. Can we assist in his idea that we should...
Could we delete 5?
5, 6 and 7?
No, just 5. Because I want to go back and contact the volunteer organisations to find out if they have any out-of-pockets. 5 would issue them with the temporary permits. I think that the wording of that's a whole thing. So why don't we just remove that? If you're, making parking arrangements for them, that's great. I'm happy with that. My preference would be to move all of this. There are some differences, like reaching out to Optus, for example. I do think that it's very much worth the council formally, from the council chamber, writing to Apple. I think that might assist with their brand standards of birds flying into their windows. And I feel like the rest of it is essentially generally what's going on at the moment, but I think that this would send a clear message to the community, and I don't think there's any adverse overlap between the two. So with amendments number 1, removal of 5 and 8, or anything else that's there, I'd like to move the motion if I could generally, unless there is anything egregious in there.
Sorry? Can we just...
Number 9 seems to have a historical perspective that is no longer relevant.
I do think it's really relevant for this council to understand how we got here, and I understand that it could be that might contain some advice, but I do really think it's important for the council to understand what was the process that led us to this situation, what were the assumptions that we made, because there's another report in there about, well, what can we do in future, because we're going to have to deal with this next year, and so, if the past report said, well, we have information A, B, C, and the new report says, well, we have A, B, C, D, well, we know we can actually compare the two. What we've done in the past resulted in this effect, and what we would do in the future. So I think it's important to understand a bit of a lessons learned and the advice that we got into how we got to this position.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I just suggest that 3 and 4 are a bit retrogressive because it's snail mail when they're actually in communication. It seems pointless writing letters when they're talking to each other.
You send an email with a PDF attachment from the City of Adelaide, and you could do that tomorrow, which I think would assist the store manager to go to their higher office. If it's already in train that we're going to write to them. But my understanding is that we're not taking those steps with the Optus store, which has a different circumstance.
So we have seek leave for another 5. Those in favour, thank you, that's carried. Can I ask Ms Podobnik?
My understanding is that the Apple Store has been written to effectively by Rundle Mall Management and invited to join the formal working group, which they are attending tomorrow. The Optus Store I don't believe has, because the advice from Rundle Mall Management was that was solved. But if Council wants us to write, we can write and join other stakeholders into the working group.
So, Councillor Siebentritt, more questions?
Yes, I suppose my question relates to coming back to what I'd said originally, which is what are these we're already doing and then what aren't we doing, with the premise being that we want to note what we're already doing because there's no value in relitigating them, and then really focus on what's missing that we want to agree to. I thought that's where we got to.
So I think that there is an opportunity to say that I think we've got a landing on the first part. See you?
What we're doing is summarised in these 4 bullet points.
Yeah, so we are...
In the e-news, yeah.
So the e-news has gone out and explained that we had been working with Green Adelaide and the presiding member, and the suggestions that they have given us most recently have been that we remove netting on 4 trees, we adjust the lighting, including around adjacent infrastructure in Rundle Mall, we support Rundle Mall traders and retailers in relation to additional window treatments, and we engage the wildlife specialist and ornithologist to help inform decision making into the future. So I think that that's occurring.
Lord Mayor. Sorry.
Councillor
We're
Giles.
trying to get the call. Considering we're still in workshop, I think that it will satisfy everybody if we said at the very top of it that council notes, and with the changes that we've discussed by you going through each point, I think we just pretty well landed that we're noting all the things that have happened. In terms of Councillor Siebentritt's comments, I haven't heard anything come out that isn't in this motion. So maybe we've got an agreement about that we note and then have the motion. And also, in terms of number 9, my memory of this, and I went back and had a look at the minutes because I wasn't sure, but this initially came from a question by Councillor Abrahimbreze about that he asked for a report to be done on the basis of the Lee Street traders complaining about the bird poo. Excuse my French.
It was 26th of March last year.
So, yeah, it might be good for us to examine, in my view anyway, to examine the way we make decisions, because if we need to understand that when you make a decision about protecting the tables of diners, there might be other environmental implications that we need to also consider. So I don't have a problem with 9, and I think that we might be able to pass this if it says that council notes and then the whole motion.
So I'm sorry, I'm a little confused.
Just at the very stem, that council notes. Yeah. I see. And then we note everything.
Yes, I've noticed. So can we go back?
Yep.
Would you be happy with that, Councillor Davis?
Yeah, just to assist, Ricky, go. The council notes the administration. Will or is?
Can I assist, Council? No. The Council notes the following actions undertaken by the Council administration in collaboration with Green Adelaide include
and then I think point 10 change the word initiate.
But I would add collaboration with Green Adelaide include, and you'd pull the first 4 bullet points out of the news, Councillor, removing netting on 4 trees in Lee Street.
I'm happy with the change. I think that's good. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm proposing those first 4 bullets.
Yep, great.
Great. Which might then make some of what follows redundant.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to keep doing this to you. Can I have another?
Just go 20 minutes and then we can always
another
come
10
out.
minutes then? 10 minutes.
So,
Leave the meeting.
Councillor, based on the first bullet, number 1 would come out.
Happy.
Yep. Okay. We're actually doing some work on signage, but we haven't nailed it yet, so we can leave that in. has already occurred, so that comes out.
I do think it should come from the Lord Mayor and from the council, but I'll leave it in your hands.
If we're noting, it can stay in.
It is operational. This is
If-
just
yeah.
wheeler dealing.
I think we should note that we did that, yeah.
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's.
So I think we should take 3 and 4 out because that's happening. I'm not sure that
Except we're
It's just-
noting, Lord
we're
Mayor, that it's
noting
happening.
noting
So at the front
communication with the Apple store and
Yeah.
communication with the Optus store.
It's covered by the third bullet point above, Councillor Giles.
Yeah, yeah.
Go and scroll up, please. Supporting run-of-the-mill traders and retailers. Yep. That's, yep.
Yep, yep.
So that makes 3 and 4 redundant. Parking permits, I think the council was happy with what we
Yeah.
did there.
I think that's too complicated.
And we've got a system for 6 and 7 already, haven't we?
Indeed we have.
So that's all been occurring. So they could go maybe.
Point 7 is more of a longer term view where these ambulances.
So can I tell you what, if I might speak from the chair?
Yeah.
Having discussed this with the experts at some length, it seems obvious, in talking to them, that there's been a dramatic change in development in the metropolitan area. Tree martins apparently used to go into ravines and high-walled areas, and with the development in the suburbs, they've been forced into the city, and they appear to be roosting in places with narrow streets and no traffic, Lee Street and Rundle Mall. And I think that we're victims of our own success. We've planted so many trees, there are more new habitats. Lee Street is a new habitat, as is Rundle Mall. And clearly in the future there are several things we need to do. One is looking at the kinds of trees we plant, where they are, and how we manage the new biodiversity that moves into the city, because as Mr. Haridas said, our biodiversity surveys to date have been about the parklands, not about the city, and this has added a whole new dimension to our problems. So, so I do think that the one part that I do think is important is number 11. And I think number 11 is sorry?
Continue, councillor.
And we're not establishing, we're actually continuing it, aren't we?
Progress. It's not established.
We're going to progress, yes. I don't think we want councillors on it, do we? Unless they're ornithologists.
I mean, I'm happy to take it out. My view is that we should have councillors on it, because then you actually have a connection and someone who can liaise with this chamber in future. So I would love to be on it, but I do think that we should actually have someone there who's going to be able to kind of bring any of these types of issues back to the council and actually influence in future.
I think that it's quite reasonable that we should have some briefing from Green Adelaide. That would be a better support for us, I think.
Yeah, I'm happy to
trying to go
remove
to all
it
the working
if
party
you so
meetings.
wish, but I am a community member if anyone needs an extra person.
So I think that we've just changed the flavour of it. Do you think we've made a landing on this? Can we just read through it again? Council notes the following actions undertaken by the administration. So I think that number 8 is, can I go down to number 8? Number 8, we have already got that up in the dot point at the top, the ornithologist, so we probably don't need it again, do we? So would you like to make 9 slightly more progressive and forward-looking? A report detailing the future management of wildlife in the city? Or would that be helpful?
No, it's really, I do want to understand how we arrived at this particular point in time. And then my understanding would be there would be a report from the administration coming out. It's just so that we have our lessons learnt on how we got to this situation so that we can be better informed of what happened next time. It is what it, like, yeah, it's bad, right? Like, we've got a whole bunch of birds running into things. Why wouldn't we have a look at how we got here? The only way that you're going to progress...
So I think that we've gone through this fairly extensively. Now, can I just ask if people want to move into normal meeting procedures and take these one at a time? Councillor?
Question. If we are noting that the administration has those actions underway, and that is the sense of it, isn't it? Council is doing those actions. The actions that follow the dot points are also actions the administration has undertaken. Is that correct?
Yes.
Could I assist?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so after the fourth bullet, and request administration provide advice in relation to.
That's perfect. Thank you.
So number 2 would become installation of, rather than install, installation of.
Thank you.
Scroll there, please. Yeah. Contact with. Preparation of.
Oh, this is so slick. Thank you. The preparation.
Preparation of. Can we lose the published word, Councillor?
Yes.
A public report would be published.
That's fine.
Continued liaison.
Yeah, continued. Inclusion of. And ongoing progress of.
Oh, perfect.
Gosh, that's clever. Thank you very much. Councillor Davis, are you happy?
Yeah.
So, and seconded by Councillor Snape.
Oh, you bugger.
We go back into normal meeting procedures now. Can I ask if people agree with that?
Yes.
Moving back? Words in agreement? That's carried. So, Councillor Davis, would you like to speak to it? And your seconder is Councillor Snape.
Thank you. We're in a bit of an impossible situation, in many ways, one that a politician never wants to be in, I suppose. We have 2 very bad outcomes. We have the tree martins in Lee Street very negatively impacting traders there, and I've spoken with traders there today who absolutely don't want to go back to what they saw before. Likewise, we can't allow the situation to continue in Rundle Mall given the occurrence that's there. These tree martins have a very long, many of them have come from a very far away place in Papua New Guinea, some of them. And I think we owe it to them to look after them. My summation is that they enjoy somewhere they can roost, like a tree in between walled areas or a walled-in area so that they are safer from predators. And it seems like they would seek out alternative areas that are, match that description, which is potentially why they're not roosting in the Botanic Gardens, for example. But merely my guess. I think the issue would be is if we start putting nets over Rundle Mall, that they could move to Guja Street or Hutt Street, or we simply move this problem on to other places. I think that the public, in looking at this motion, will be assured that the City of Adelaide is taking every step necessary to address the issues that are occurring on Rundle Mall, that we will also look to the future in terms of how we can address these issues in future. Ideally, we can find a solution that will benefit the Lee Street traders, but also the Rundle Mall, and perhaps the tree martins can showcase as a biodiversity icon in South Australia in years to come. This will take a lot of work, and it could actually be a coordinated effort across the city to net and encourage the birds to go into a more suitable location where they wish to roost. This will take a lot of effort by the administration and by experts to solve this problem, but no doubt an important one. The council had concerns, I suppose, that they would move, but we didn't know exactly where they would move to. So I believe that this motion will send a clear signal to the people of South Australia that we are taking this issue very seriously, that we're moving forward on it, and that we will look to a long-term solution for Lee Street and Rundle Mall. Thank you.
Sorry? Oh, Councillor Martin.
Lord Mayor. Look, it pains me to say this, but the origins of this terrible tragedy are within this chamber. I was here when a former councillor, Hussam Abiad, who was the leader of Team Adelaide, Lord Mayor, raised this initially in the chamber.
Like a point of order, like at a time like this, when the council needs to come together, trying to attack
Lord Mayor,
past
if this is a point of order, I need to understand what is the part of the act
Sorry,
he is referencing.
I'm making a point of order.
He is just
I'm making a point of order.
incessantly
I'm making
interrupting.
a point of order.
It's Regulation 29. Regulation 29.
At a time like this, I believe that it's in terms of the guiding principles of this council, a time for us to come together to celebrate what we have achieved as a council together and realise that we do have difficulties. But I think a time now where we need to look to leadership, not division, and we as a council need to look to our future, not to our past, and not to go and shit on past members.
It's a lovely speech about goodwill to all men, but can we carry on, Councillor?
Yes, Lord Mayor, and it was, in fact, Councillor Davis who asked what the history was. I was obliging him and reminding him that it was the Deputy Lord Mayor at the time, Hussam Abiad, who first raised the issue and
I have a point of order.
Lord Mayor, I will ask for Regulation 29 if he continue.
I think that it's fair to say, Councillor Davis, that this is the question that was part of your motion about the history and prepare a report.
No, it's well, okay, if I can clarify then no, it's about the recent history of how we came to put the nets on Lee Street and then moving it to Rundle Mall. The point of order is that I'd ask the member not to refer to me. There's been previous rulings by your lordship of members not referring to each other in the chamber and referring to you only through the chair.
I'd ask
Councillor Martin
he has
to do the
not
same.
mentioned your name.
Yes, he did mention my name. He said Councillor Davis asked me to say this, so no, I didn't.
I don't believe he said anything disparaging about you. We're all very grateful. We're very grateful for your leadership. Thank you. Councillor Martin.
I always love it when Lord Mayor, look, the history was it came from this chamber. It was Hussam Abiad who raised it and placed enormous pressure on the council to do something. And for years, many years, in fact, the council did attempt to manage the problem. And when Councillor Abiad left, he passed the baton to Councillor Abrahimzadeh, who successively raised motions in relation to Lee Street. And ultimately, the chamber pressured the administration to act.
Just have a point of order.
And the action was...
I have a point of order. It's what Councillor Martin would like to relitigate is not this motion. This motion deals with the current situation that's there, not the history of his personal gripes with his old colleagues. What we're looking to look at this motion,
Lord
what
Mayor,
it deals with...
This is not
Sorry,
a
excuse
point
me, I'm
of
making
order.
a point of order. I'm making a point of order. I'm making a point of order.
Thank you. Lord Mayor, it was passed to Councillor Abrahimzadeh, who on behalf of Lee Street traders raised it on many occasions. And frankly, the chamber placed enormous pressure on the administration, which sought advice and acted on the advice of wildlife experts in installing the netting. It has had adverse consequences. There is no question about that. And indeed, I don't see that there is an end in sight. However, we are, in spite of ourselves, moving to do the best we can in the circumstances. And my only regret is that Councillor Davis hadn't asked the administration what it was doing.
I have a point of order. I have a point of order.
Before raising
I have a point of order.
Lord
I'd
Mayor,
ask the members not to refer to each other.
Fifth interruption.
I'd ask the members not to refer to each other.
I would like to move Regulation 29
Don't refer to me in
respect of Councillor Davis breaching the code.
I'm asking him not to refer to me in his speech.
I think that we're responding to a debate. So, Councillor Martin, can you keep moving? You've got 54 seconds.
Oh, thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, it's always important to ask the administration for advice about how it's approaching these issues. And I must say, I'm just delighted to hear that there's been so much attention by the administration to the issue and so many attempts plainly to resolve it. I appreciate that. I'm sure that the ratepayers of the City of Adelaide will be pleased to hear that the Council has been acting for some time. It is important, however, that we find a solution to the issue, and I regret that though this will help, the longer story is that we need to find a solution that doesn't involve netting and the apparent demise of birds in Arundel Mall simply because we've diverted them there. I regret very much what's happened, and I trust that we find a solution.
Thank you. Councillor Snape.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I just
Seconder.
want to start by actually acknowledging all the hard work that the staff has put in to this throughout, well, several years, but also in the last 4 to 5 weeks as we've seen these tragic deaths happen. I actually echo Councillor Martin's concerns and the pressure that was put on staff by former Team Adelaide leader Hussam Abiad and then Councillor
I think that we don't need to
today.
keep pressing the point.
And apologies, Lord Mayor. And so now it's up to this council to fix that mistake, and we are doing so. Those nets should have not been placed there in the first place. I certainly think so. I'm certainly sympathetic to the traders on Lee Street, but I do hope to see the nets removed next year in time, well, in their entirety for the next season of migrations. We can't let this happen again. We talk about being a green city, an environmental city, a natural city surrounded by our parklands, and yet here we go with this situation. But as I said, that being said, I commend the staff on their hard work, their quick reaction, their conversations with the traders, their conversations with experts, and I really do, despite everything that's happened, I commend the administration on what was a bad decision by Team Adelaide. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Can I just make this point? Can I just make this point that the netting was put in place last year? Councillor, can you please be quiet? You don't need to help me. I'm making the point. The netting was put in place last year in response to difficulties in Lee Street. There were unintended consequences, firstly of planting so many trees. As I say, we're victim of our own success here. We've planted so many trees, we've created micro-environments that were never there before, and then the unintended consequences trying to protect our ratepayers. So I think that many people have been involved, but at the end of the day, the administration have done the very best they can in difficult circumstances, trying to juggle everyone's wants and desires to support the traders, to look after the birds and actually support the volunteers. I've been absolutely overwhelmed by the care with which the volunteers have been dealt with. They have been treated with respect and helped, and I just commend the administration for the negotiations and the work they put in. Councillor Siebentritt, then Councillor Giles.
Lord Mayor, I'll be very brief, and at the risk of repeating some of what's already been said, can I first just note the work of the staff, but also the volunteers. I think the second point is it's not lost on me as an ecologist by training that we've got an important native species here, which is roosting in 2 different species of introduced tree. And I think, as you've said, in some regards, we're working through the outcome of some of our successes in past tree planting. But the point I wanted to make is that's only going to continue in the future as we continue to put more trees in the city. And so the biggest lesson for me that's going to come out of this is how do we work together with scientists, with the department and with the community, because we will see our city go up to 30% tree canopy cover. We'd expect we're going to create a whole lot more habitat, and rather than seeing this as a divisive issue, it should be one where we're celebrating the fact that we have this species in the city. We note that there's challenges in how we manage it, but we also recognise this sort of thing may continue again in the future, and how do we do it better in the future, particularly around the way we communicate our management actions.
And at the risk of everyone having a turn, I'll go. I know it's not a long thing. I would like us to reflect that that the way that we pulled together this motion tonight was one where we actually went into problem-solving mode. We acknowledged the work of the staff. We came to an agreement about what needs to be done in a really civilised way. So I hope that we can sort of like continue that as the way that we go forward. I do think that we do have really tricky problems in the city when we're trying to encourage businesses to, to get out there and have outdoor dining and create an atmosphere that's really beautiful for visitors and for locals to eat and drink in. And we have trees planted and we have beautiful creatures coming in because we planted our trees, and how do we balance all those needs? So balancing is a major issue for us as a city council that many councils don't have that same issue. So it's been a great step forward, I think, to discuss this issue in a civilised manner and to come to an agreement around acknowledging what needs to be done and having a bit of a think about having a strategy moving forward that takes on those tricky problems, those wicked problems, in a more sophisticated way, acknowledging that just responding to some complaints about something or some difficulties that some group is having is not the way to go if we also, and if we don't also consider the ramifications and the environment around that. So I think this is a really good motion and shows that we're on track to dealing with those tricky problems. And I also think it's amazingly exciting to have these little birds in our city. I didn't even know what a tree martin was till I joined this council, and now I do, and now I know a hell of a lot more about them. And I think it would be really great if we could play an active role as a council in making sure that everyone goes through that experience and we all get to really love our little tree martins, and it becomes something that people come to Adelaide to have a look at and come to Lee Street to have a look up at as well.
Davis, would you like to sum up?
Thank you very much, Councillor Siebentritt and Councillor Giles, for your comments tonight. I do think that there are other places in the world which have taken quite negative, initially what they thought was a negative animal activity in the city and turned that into a tourist destination. I think in America, I think it might be our namesake, in fact, they had a problem with bats and turned that into a significant tourist destination with about $8 million worth of income from the state. I did raise that idea with some of the Lee Street traders, not a big fan, but I remain in hope. I do hope that this motion will show leadership from the City of Adelaide in terms of what we're going to do going forward. And I really do thank the volunteers who have answered the call and gone out of their way and done everything they need to do. I think at least 5 per night who are there looking after the birds, taking them to the vets, and also those vets who are trying to nurse these poor birds back to health. I think we've learnt a lot as a council from this. Ultimately, this was our decision. We made the decision. We were briefed on it last year. And the responsibility, whether it was me who made the decision or the administration, the buck does stop with this council and with this chamber. I believe that we have a good way forward, and I think that this motion will go a long way to informing the public on terms of what the council is doing to liaise with key interest groups to make sure that we can improve the plight of the bird. And I suppose next year we will turn our minds to when they return to Adelaide, potentially with Climate 31, with COP 31, and we can showcase them and have a suitable place for them to roost in future. So, and I'd also like to thank Lord Mayor for your efforts behind the scenes in terms of dealing with the administration and coordinating efforts. And often there's a significant amount of public angst as to what's happening, but I commend the administration on their busy feet and what they've been doing to solve this very alarming issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Just before the vote, can I just recommend seeing the murmuration, which is a wonderful word and is a description of the way they fly in great flocks that weave and coil. So all those in favour? All those against? It's unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Davis, for sorting that out. Questions on notice. We have several which are on your desk. Questions without notice. No? Shall we move on then? Can I ask someone to move the exclusion for item 22? Moved by Councillor Giles, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. And can I ask someone to move the exclusion for 23? Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Davis. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, members. So could I ask members of the public who are in the gallery to become absent now? I don't know if there are any members.